Overthinking is something that we all struggle with at some point in our lives. The constant, the constant cycle of doubts and second-guessing ourselves can sometimes feel overwhelming. But what if I told you that Islam provides us with a beautiful way to overcome these thoughts and trust in Allah's plan? In today's story, we'll be looking at the life of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, and how he showed us the best way to deal with overthinking and uncertainty. So, sit back and listen closely to this beautiful story from the life of the Prophet Muhammad and how he handled moments of difficulty and stress with trust in Allah. Our story begins during one of the most difficult times in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH. The people of Makkah had been opposing and persecuting the Muslims for many years. The Prophet faced insults, violence, and threats. But despite all this, he continued to spread the message of Islam. However, things became so dangerous that Allah commanded the Prophet and the Muslims to migrate to Medina for their safety. This event is known as the Hijrah, one of the most significant events in Islamic history. Imagine this. The Prophet had to leave his home, his family, and everything he knew. It wasn't an easy decision. But this was the plan of Allah, and the Prophet had complete trust in Allah's wisdom. Overcoming overthinking. Now, imagine yourself in the Prophet's position. If it were us, we might be overwhelmed with thoughts. What will happen to us? Will we be safe? What about the people we are leaving behind? The mind can go into overdrive with all sorts of questions. But here's where the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, set an incredible example for us. The Prophet didn't let fear and overthinking take over. He trusted in Allah's plan completely. His heart was firm in his belief that Allah would guide him, protect him, and make things easy. As the Prophet PBUH and his close companion Abu Bakr embarked on their journey to Medina, the Quraysh of Makkah set out to capture them. The Prophet PBUH and his close companion Abu Bakr had to be very careful. They took a different route and hid in a cave called Gar Thor to escape the enemies who were searching for them. Now imagine this. The Prophet PBUH and his close companion Abu Bakr were in the cave, completely alone, hiding for their lives. The enemy was so close that they could hear footsteps and voices outside. In that moment, Abu Bakr became worried. He whispered to the Prophet, "Buaish, if they look down, they will see us." But the Prophet remained calm. He replied, "What do you think of two, when Allah is their third?" The Prophet was not overcome by overthinking or fear. He placed his full trust in Allah. He knew that no matter how dire the situation seemed, Allah would protect them. Overcoming overthinking. The power of trust in Allah. At that moment, Allah sent a miracle. A spider spun a web over the entrance of the cave, and a dove laid eggs near the entrance. When the enemies arrived at the cave and saw the web and the eggs, they assumed that no one could have entered the cave recently. This is an incredible example of trusting in Allah when things seem impossible. The Prophet didn't waste time overthinking the situation. He trusted Allah fully, and Allah provided a way out in the most unexpected of ways. Dear brothers and sisters, what can we learn from this beautiful story? Overthinking often happens when we try to control everything, when we focus on the what-ifs, and when we forget to trust in Allah's plan. But the Prophet Muhammad taught us that when we place our trust in Allah and rely on Him completely, we can find peace, even in the most uncertain situations. He didn't let fear or overthinking stop him from moving forward, and he showed us that Allah's help comes in ways we could never imagine. Practical tips to overcome overthinking from the story. Trust in Allah's plan. Just as the Prophet PBUH trusted in Allah during the Hijrah, we should trust that whatever happens in our life is part of Allah's plan for us. Make dua supplication. The Prophet constantly turned to Allah in times of difficulty. When you feel overwhelmed, raise your hands and make sincere dua to Allah.